You're at 109 right now.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode. Let's get right into it. All right. So I found this video today on YouTube, and apparently this 109 phenomena has affected someone else. This person has a very small YouTube following, but I guess they felt compelled for no other reason but they found 109. They found it to be intriguing, perhaps annoying, and I guess it was gratifying for them to produce or to create this YouTube channel to say, hey, what the heck is going on with this number? What does it mean? And I just happened to find 109 today. So I'm going to pull up 109 right here. I'm going to pull up the video. I watched it earlier, and I sent the link to my wife. So I'm going to check out. Let me find this link, and then we're going to get. Okay, I found the video. Here's the link. All right, here we go. Sometimes what plays on the computer, the audio does not get picked up on on my Mixcast platform. So you may or may not listen. You may not hear what's being played right now. Chances are you don't hear it, which is why I'm talking over it. But let me explain what I'm watching. It looks to be an Asian movie. It appears to be, well, I can't say if it's Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Taiwanese, or Thai, Laotian. Okay, I can't call it. But here's the video. If you want to check it out yourself, it says here, just what exactly is 109. All right, that's the title of the video. The name of the YouTuber is 100.9. 2 words, 100.9. The YouTuber has 1 subscriber. Okay, I thought there were more. Has 1 subscriber. Maybe they'll have 2 subscribers after this podcast here. And let's see. This person uploaded this video on January 29th, 2019, and it's received 33 views. In the description area, the person wrote, "No human knows as far as I know." In reference, or this person is answering their own question. Just what exactly is 109? And their answer is, no human knows as far as I know. Okay. All right, so back to the video. The video is 1 minute and 20 seconds long, and it shows a movie. Okay, we're watching. Perhaps they filmed this movie, on their cell phone, or maybe in a movie theater. I can't, really tell. But in the scene, it looks like a movie theater. It looks like it may be at a movie theater. All right. In the scene, there's a woman who has exited a box, an underground chamber. She comes up out of the ground. There's a bright light, shown on her face. Yes, there's an extremely bright light, and then from behind the bright light, a figure emerges. Okay, so she's staring at this bright light. Come into the light, come closer, that kind of thing. And then there's a figure that steps forward, and then you can see their silhouette, and they move in closer. Now the figure is wearing what looks like a navy jacket, like a seaman's jacket, and we're talking like, for storms and what have you. So this thing is heavy. It's probably like a wool not even a jacket, it's a coat, a wool coat from the that covers from the neck all the way down, to the ankles. Pretty much, that's what it appears to be like. Looks like it's a double-breasted uh, coat. The figure appears to be wearing white gloves, and there's a patch around the left bicep. So this very much looks like a military. It looks like military attire, and then this figure is also wearing what looks like maybe a beret or some sort of hat. It All of it looks like a uniform, a military uniform. It absolutely does. But here's the thing: this figure, I've repeatedly said figure because this person doesn't have a face. It's like the Invisible Man. All right, this figure does wear gloves, and you can see that they have hands. But where the face should be, there's actually just yeah. It looks like the reflection of the galaxy. Where the face would be, it's like looking. If you were to look into the universe, or if you were looking at a NASA, photograph of the universe of a galaxy, then their face, what would otherwise be a face, is a galaxy. All right, now going back to this box that this woman is climbing out of, it looks like a bomb shelter, right? The door, it looks like the door to a bomb shelter. The door is open, and she's like slowly rising out of the bomb shelter. Okay, that's what it appears. She's climbing out, and she's the light is blinding, but she still manages to stare at this figure. She approaches the figure. All right, this is all that's happening in the movie. She continues to approach the figure, and then she's standing before the figure. All right, so imagine just two people standing in a field. Of course, it's going to be in the field. This would not be on a busy street in the city. They're, of course, in the field. It could potentially be a desert. No, it can't be a desert because there appear to be too many weeds, bushes, and things that are perhaps growing out of the ground. All right, so it looks like a field in the country, and then there's this massive light, illuminating the ground from what is the top right corner of the movie screen. Okay, and then the two figures are staring at each other in the middle. All right, yeah, so now we get a close-up shot of the figure, the entity that this woman is standing before. We can see the woman, we can see her face, we see she's human, but whoever this military dressed galaxy face figure is, all right, all we know is, it's some sort of energy being source thingamajig, because it definitely isn't human. They don't have a face, although they do dress very well for a human. All right, so okay, now here we go. All right, so the video is called Just What Exactly Is 109, and it says the answer is no human knows, as far as I know. Okay, that's all they've written. They've got one subscriber. Their channel name is 109. Okay, so where does 109 come from, or where does this question arise? Well, that figure, that well-dressed figure with the galaxy face, raises its hand as if to share something with the woman. And what does he share, or what does he have in his hand? He's actually not grasping what I'm about to tell you. It's more or less, it's hovering over his hand. But it's basically, it's above his hand. So he raises his hand, and you can see clearly the number 109. There are some other digits and some other things that are here. Let's see if I can get a better. All right, it says a Q. All right. So they flash back to the woman's face to show her confusion, her I don't know, acceptance, her wonder. Oh, she bows, she nods her head in a as a gesture of understanding. Yes, I understand. But we clearly do not. So what's okay? All right. So there's something. All right, there's some numbers and some letters. I think there was a letter Q. I think there's a letter R, and then the number 0109. So, imagine, I don't know. Yeah, if you're standing in front of someone and maybe you had a cell phone and maybe a Pokemon was resting just above their hand, it kind of gives you that impression like, oh, there's a Pokemon on your hand, right? Well, imagine it's not a Pokemon and it's rather an alphanumeric, expression, QR0109. All right. So that's basically what we have going on here. She reaches up for it. I think she touches it. Okay. And once she touches it, it disappears. Bling, 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 it disappears, right? It's like it shattered, okay? It's like it was so delicate that it shattered. Okay, and then we have a millisecond after it shatters, whereby we're able to see her reaction on her face. And that's the end of the clip. Now, for all the description and all that I described, it took me 5 minutes or so. That movie clip only lasted 1 minute and 20 seconds. Okay? Wow, no. This podcast has been going on for 12 minutes now. So I just did all the describing. I did all that to describe a 1 minute and 20 second clip that you probably could have just gone straight to YouTube to watch and seen it for yourself. All right, well, that's how it is. But anyway, I've given you the information so you can check it out yourself. All right, the video is entitled "Just What Exactly Is 109?" All right, I'm going to type that into the search. Just what exactly is 109? I'm going to type it in there and see if it comes up. Yeah. All right. So it's the first. All right. It's the first result that pops up. Let me tell you how I found this. All right. I was in the classroom earlier today and I was looking through my old 109 videos. I'm at the point now where I am, excuse me. I've spent so much time talking about 109 or 109 as I like to call it. And I have so many videos and I have yet to experience like YouTube stardom, or YouTube fame, that I'm like, oh brother, I'm wasting my time with all of this. And then when I came across this video, well, excuse me, okay. So that was one part of my how that's how I felt earlier today. But then I was looking for a particular video that I had created in the past. I actually wanted to look at my progress. I'm like, let me see how my videos have changed over the past 3 to 4 years that I've been making these videos. And has my content improved? Did I seem to be off my rocker when I started making these videos about some, random 3-digit number? And in particular, I look for the video entitled, "What Does 109 Mean?" If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so I have a video entitled, "What Does 109 Mean?" Actually, in order to find that video, you would have to type in question number 1, "What does 109 mean?" ? and then you'd have to write the name of my my YouTube channel, which is IC109 or IC109, and then Braveler, right? IC109, IC109, and Braveler. Those are two brands I've been trying to promote. Anyhow, you can find that video where I explain, what 109 means to me, or 109. And then there's this other video I made a year ago. It's called "What's the Point of 109?" And so basically I went back to look at these videos to say, man, am I wasting my time? Are my video editing and production skills improving? Am I becoming a better storyteller? Like, how are things developing? How are things progressing? This is what I wanted to know, because I've grown my channel to 400 and I think 30 subscribers. I could certainly, have more, and I'd love to have more and actually earn some money from this. But anyhow, I digress. And so when I did that search for those two videos, just to, peruse my channel and to get, and to make an assessment based upon, all the time that I spent on the video, on making these videos, I came across this other video, which has a similar title, Just What Exactly is 109? And then I thought, well, wait a minute, someone else is wondering exactly what I'm wondering? And there it is. Just what exactly is 109? There's one video. Now, as if that, wasn't enough, I found another video about 109, and that video is basically it's the same idea, okay? So it's a different creator, but they wonder the same thing. What's up with this 109? And they're frustrated, all right? They're annoyed and frustrated with 109 because according to them, they keep encountering this 3-digit number. And which I find hilarious. And I guess comforting to know that someone else out there is experiencing what I'm experiencing. Like, what the heck is going on? And let's see, I'm scrolling now through my channel, through the videos that came up when I searched on YouTube. I searched the title, what does 109 mean? All right, here it is. All right, so this person, oh, by the way, I must tell you, oh no, I've already told you. Okay, the other video, with the Asian woman and then the galaxy-faced figure, that video was made 4 years ago. All right, so that was 2019. And check this out. This other video about 109 and what it means was made 7 years ago. And this person received 1.9 K, 1,900 views, all right, over the past 7 years. I'm going to play the video from my cell phone, so you'll be able to hear the content, okay? So let's find it. The title of this video is "The Fuck Does 109 Mean?" So this person obviously is annoyed and frustrated with this video stuff. All right, guys, so we're going to listen to this video by Dialgo Prima. That's the name of their YouTube channel. No, excuse me. I said Dialgo. It's Dial Go Prima. Prima, like Spanish for cousin. So dial, like dialing the telephone. D-I-A-L. Go, G-O. And then prima, like cousin in Spanish. P-R-I-M-A. All one word. Dialgo Prima. All right? All right, so this is the video. And let's see. Let me read the description before I play the. It says, all right, 1,954 views since November 2nd, 2015. This channel has 24 subscribers, okay? All right, this person says in their description, 1-1 was a racehorse. 2-2 was 1-2. 1-1 won one race. 2-2 won 109. Still, I have no idea what the heck that's all about. All right, here's the video. Let's listen to the video. It's entitled, "The fuck does 109 mean?" Here it comes.
109. Oh, 109.
I used to say it all the time back in Cali. You couldn't stop me saying this word.
109.
This.
109.
That. The fuck does
109.
me?
All right. Okay, I hate when the audio does this. As soon as I play something from my cell phone, the audio switches. If you're a tech dude, maybe you could share insight. I don't know. It always happens. It's a little frustrating. Anyway, let's go back. I'm going to play it once again. I'm going to replay this silly, it's only a 15-second video, but it's online on YouTube. Here it goes.
109.
Oh,
109.
I used to say it all the time back in Cali. You couldn't stop me saying this word.
109.
This.
109.
That. The fuck does
109.
me?
All right, so there you have it. And there's the audio once again. Okay. All right, the audio corrected itself quicker this time. All right, so the YouTube video, what's it about? All right. Let's see. Wow, it took me a long time just to go through 2 videos. It took me 20 minutes to talk about a 1 minute and 20-second video, 1 minute and 20-second long video, and then it took me even longer to talk about a 15-second video. Wow. All right, we're gonna keep going with this 10-9 mess. Just gonna keep it rolling, okay? Because I have some explaining to do, I think, with regard to this 10-9 stuff. All right, so stay tuned. We're gonna take a little transition break, shall we? All right.
You're at 109 right now.
Welcome back. All right, guys, let's get into it. I need to do some explaining, okay? For starters, yeah, my birthday is October 9th. So that's where the 10-9 comes from. 10 being October, the 10th month, and 9 being the day. So 10-9 is an allusion to my birthday. All right? But so what? Because that was never a thing. 10-9 was never a thing to me when I was a kid. I mean, I knew I was born on October 9th, but it had very little, meaning. It's like, so what? I wasn't looking for 10-9 everywhere, and I wasn't associating those numbers 109 with my birthday. None of that. However, in 2007, no, not 2007. It was 2005 when I bought my first car. Now, I had cars prior to that. I've been driving since I was 16. And I always got terrible cars. Junk. The first car I got was a salvage vehicle. My dad purchased for a few $1,000s. And then when he was through with it, he just, pushed it off on me. And I didn't have a job. I didn't have any money. And so I couldn't reject, what he was handing me, what he was, bestowing upon me. This car that I was inheriting from him. I couldn't, reject it. And I didn't have any other options. So I just had to accept it. Like, all right, fine. I'll make do with this until I'm ready to, buy my own wheels. And I was pretty optimistic too. I was like, man, just have to put up with this, and then I'll be in better position. A better position didn't present itself, But anyway, yeah, it didn't present itself until 2005. So in 2005, so let me see. So I was driving that car. I was driving it was a Volvo. It was a burgundy Volvo. I was in a car accident in that car. I was riding with Christopher. I was riding with Chris, Hassan, and I believe Kimani. Anyway, we were on our way to Venice Beach. These are just details I'm sharing because maybe these stories might be interesting. These little details, but anyway, so I was driving since 1995. I want to say 95, 96, and so I did not purchase my own vehicle or a car of my own liking until 2005, right? I think it was 2005. I have a picture of myself standing. Yeah, I'm not gonna get all the way down to the fine detail. I mean, if it was 2003, which I doubt it was, I'm not gonna even fight it anymore. Look, it was 2005. All right, we're going with that. Let's see. How long is that? So if I was driving from 1995 to 2005, man, that was 10 years where I was driving buckets. A bucket is a jalopy. All right, it's another term for a jalopy. Anyway, I was doing that, but I was a college student. I was a struggling college student, and the only jobs I had during college included I was moonlighting, I guess, as a martial arts instructor. So I would teach taekwondo classes, which was great money I was getting like $30 an hour, but I only got like 4 hours a week. If that, I'd be lucky to get 4 hours a week, I remember I was probably making like $400 a month, actually, doing that. But anyway, yeah, I wasn't making any money. Then I was also working at the cafeteria on campus at my local university, Cal Poly Pomona. I was making like $8 an hour. Although I had more hours, I could do 3 hours, 4 hours, 5, maybe 10 hours in a week. It was all part-time. Anyway, and that schedule fit around my my class schedule, just going to the cafeteria and work. One time I burned my thumbs. They told me to wear these fireproof or burn resistant gloves, and I guess I wasn't wearing them. I don't know what happened. And or at least my thumbs weren't protected, and they were rushing me, which was, they were assholes for rushing me. Come on, man, we got to get this stuff out quickly. So I reached in to grab a pan from the oven, and I guess my index, middle ring, and pinky were protected, but my thumbs weren't. And then when I grabbed this pan, this hot pan full of maybe tomatoes or not tomatoes, but potatoes, that were sitting in there to stay warm, I pressed my thumbs against the pan in order to pull it out. That's when I seared my thumbs. It wasn't a terrible injury. It wasn't a terrible burn, but I certainly dropped the pan and created so much commotion and brought so much attention onto myself that they had to, administer like some burn cream to my thumbs and sent me to the hospital, even though it was unnecessary. But they were just covering their ass, and I don't think I worked at the cafeteria after that. Or maybe if I did, it was only for a short period of time, but they moved me from there to like chopping onions. Anyhow, So I worked in the cafeteria. I was teaching martial arts sometimes, and I was going to school. And having a nice car really it didn't bother me so much because I always believed that I would have a better car. It certainly bothered me that there were other students my age and even younger who had superior cars already. Like one of my roommates had like this, I guess you'd have to call it bitchin' ride, man. He had lovely rims or wheels. It was just state of the art, or it was like the latest model for whatever type of car it was. And it was awesome. It was cool. And it went fast. My car didn't go fast. If you slammed on the gas, on the accelerator, then you'd have to wait like a minute, 2 minutes, maybe 5 minutes before the engine like turned over. It was pathetic. And going up hills was just like impossible. Yeah. And so I suffered through that for a good long time. And then finally, sadly, but gratefully, my great-grandmother passed away, and my grandmother bequeathed, I guess. She gave me her old car. So I went from a jalopy that my father handed off to me to the jalopy my grandmother had worn down, and she had no need for it. She no longer had a need for it, and so she handed it off to me. But my grandmother's jalopy was it was a lot better than the jalopy I inherited from my dad, because it had a superior engine. So finally I had a little bit of kick, a little power. I could press that accelerator and move. That thing was moving, which was great until it started breaking down. And then I had to go to the what is that thing called? To the mechanic. I had to go, it was a Chrysler New Yorker. So I had to go to the Chrysler dealerships and had to listen to them tell me, oh, it needs X, Y, and Z. And you need to pay $400, $500, $600. And I'm like, I don't have any money. So I had to go to mom and dad. Can you help me? And mom and dad are like, why do we have to help you? You should be able to do this on your own. I'm just like, I can't believe this is my life. But that's what it was. So anyway, I wasn't even thinking about 109. I wasn't checking receipts. It wasn't like the Chrysler dealer was like, you have to pay us a bill. It's $109. I didn't look at that receipt and say, ooh, 109, that's my birthday. Nah. You kidding me? Nothing like that. But something happened when in 2007 I moved to Korea. Oh, wait a minute. Why did I tell you about these cars? Why did I tell you that my history of car ownership? It's because in 2005, when I finally got my new car, when I finally purchased my very first car in 2005, how could I purchase it in 2000? Oh, yes. Excuse me. Okay. Yeah, I graduated from college in 2004. And then I started working full time, right? I didn't have to go to school anymore, so now I had the time to work. And so I had the time to earn money to buy a car. And so I bought my first car in 2005. And that first car was a Saturn Ion, but it was a used vehicle with only 1,000 miles on the miles, whatever. But because it was mine, because my name was because I signed it, because it was in my name, it was my vehicle, I wanted to have a personalized license plate. I wanted a personalized license plate, but I didn't want a conspicuous personalized license plate. So what I did is I studied the license format, the alphanumeric format, and I consciously, volitionally chose a license plate that looked like some random alphanumeric combination on any given car, but what numbers and letters I chose held some significance to me personally. So this was the first time I was actually thinking about, basically what I was doing. All right, so I chose my license plate to read 109. All right, so this is the first time I did this. It was 109 LAW and the number 2. And pretty much, if you look at her license plate, I think you will find some license plates are 3 digits, 3 letters, and then a number. Or 3 numbers, 3 letters, and then a number. I think that's how it went. And it looked like any other license plate, but it secretly held, a lot of personal information. It had my birth date, and it had my initials. All right, I'm Larry Alfred Wiggs II. So 109, my birthday, Larry Alfred Wiggs II. So I basically put all my information out there on my license plate. I remember someone asked me while I was driving one day, they rolled their window down and they honked their horn and they said, "Hey, are you a lawyer?" I said, "No." So that happened. So anyway, that was the first time, 10-9, I had called these numbers, or I had identified, or these numbers had spoken to me, or I don't know. 2005. Now, I was working, but I was unhappy with my job. I felt that because I had a college degree, I could find a better job. So I said, you know what, I'm going to quit this job and I'll just find another job easily. And it wasn't easy for me to find another job. And I found myself basically unemployed for the next 2 years, aside from doing temporary work, temporary assignments. And so between 2005 and 2007, March of 2007, I was temping. The longest assignment of which was, I think, 4 months. And I was probably making $15 an hour. Yep, $15 an hour. Yep, $15 an hour or $2,500 a month. That's all that I got between 2005 and 2007. And the longest I worked was 4 months. The shortest time I worked was like 1 day. Yeah. All right. So now in 2007, I had an apartment, I had a car, but I was sinking. Credit card bills were piling up and I could not support myself. I really wish I had a roommate and I had less pressure on me. There was a tremendous amount of pressure on me being a college graduate, and this pressure to be successful was like, you gotta have a job. You went to college, now you have to have a job. And the fact that things weren't playing out the way that I thought that they would, I thought they would be immediate. I thought change would come and it would be like, here, yes, we'd love to hire a college graduate. Here's your job, $50,000, $60,000 a year, go. And I certainly met people who were younger than me making that kind of money, so it was possible. But for me, no, it was elusive. It seemed elusive. So anyhow, I started searching for a way out, searching for, other options. And then in 2007, the other option came in the form of Korea. Move to Korea, sign a 1-year contract, earn a salary, don't look back. And that salary would pretty much be the answer to my problems, right? Well, at least Korea would be the answer to my problems, because the salary that I would earn would help sustain me. But then I was also getting free board Wait a minute, not board. Board means food. Free room. So I get free room and I get a salary and everything else I can figure it out. And for the most part, that's all I needed. I just needed a jump start like that. And I got it when I moved to Korea. All right. So there you have it. That's what happened. But then I think I've talked too much about, these little details, and I've gotten away from 10-9 and stuff because I should be talking about that. So it was when I got to Korea that these moments started reminding me about these numbers. I just kept, seeing them, 10-9. So the first friend I made, which was Luke is from New Zealand. He was born on the same day. The first friend I made, man, we shared the same birthday. But that was endearing. That was, comforting. It was like, oh man, we're the same age. We're doing the same thing. At least something is going right in our lives. But I'm getting a phone call right now. We're going to have to end this, and I'm going to have to get back to talk about Luke. We're going to come back and talk about Luke.
You're at 109 right now.
All right, so back to the story. I was talking about Luke. Yeah, so there I am in Korea, and my first friend shares the same birthday, and I'm like, all right, things are looking up for us, but sort of, kind of, but not really. Like for Luke, maybe things were looking up, but for me, Luke had already been in Korea for a number of years, so he was just coasting by. I was new, and I had to, get my bearings, and there was a lot to this transition, and it was the first time I had ever moved abroad at that abroad, international. Anyway, but yeah, finding that my first friend, my first contact, he and I shared the same birthday. That was pretty cool. That was a neat coincidence, right? Something that I probably haven't mentioned is the fact that on your ID, your identification card in South Korea, for the first 8 numbers, include your birthday and your birth year. All right. So it goes, month, day, year. So of course, month, day means that the first 4 digits of my identification number were 1009. All right, so imagine that. So whenever I'm asked, if I went to the immigration office and they asked me for my ID number, part of me learning Korean and practicing Korean was reciting numbers. So, I had to make trips to immigration offices. I had to go to the DMV in Korea, whatever they call that, auto, whatever. I had to get my my license there. I had to do a number of things, and I would regularly, I'd regularly be asked for my, it's called an ARC, Alien Registration Card. So the ARC number. So I had to rattle that number off, in Korean. And I welcomed the opportunity because it was an opportunity for me to practice, Korean. But anyway, I found myself constantly reciting these same numbers. So maybe that the constant droning in my head of, those numbers, 10-9, or 1009, gong, ilgonggongu. That's how you say 1009, right? So maybe that played on my psyche, played on my mind. I don't know. But again, I didn't particularly care. There was no big whoop. Ooh, look, my ARC number is 1009. No, nothing. But yes, it was the conditioning. I would hear it, I would see it, I would recognize it. So much so that when I would look at my watch or look at my cell phone clock and I would see 10:09 on the clock, well, then that moment would force me to recall my ARC number, that I was learning in Korean. And I would say, oh, look, 10:09, il gong gong gu. All right. So there were moments like that for me. Now, how is it that I would look at my watch at 10:09? I don't know. That these things just happen. It wasn't only 10:09 because it sometimes happened where it was 1:09, and 1:09 looks, sufficiently similar to 10:09. There's only one zero missing. And then you have 11:09. That's another time. 11:09 is another time in which you can see 1:09. You could basically see 1, 0, and 9. Now, of course, going back to 10:09, 1009, or il gong gong gu, yes, there are 2 zeros in there, but as I say, if you're thinking about the values, we're looking at the value of 1 and 0, that's 10, and the value of 0, 9, well, that's 9. So you could even ignore the second zero, and you'd still have the values of 10 and 9. And that's basically what this whole thing is about, playing with 10 and 9, just those numbers. It's not about 1009 per se. It's more about 10 and 9 in that order. So anyway, yeah, so that's something that I haven't mentioned before, but yeah, I guess, having to read my ID number so frequently in Korea, and then seeing those numbers on a watch, on a digital readout, on a clock or something, yes, then I had a heightened awareness of those numbers. But I think that heightened awareness came later, because we're talking, multiple iterations of repeating my ID number. But what I haven't mentioned is within the first few months of arriving in Korea, or rather, in addition to meeting my first friend whose birthday was 10/9, just like me, is when our birthdays rolled around the clock, rolled around the calendar, we discovered that our birthdays were shared a national holiday, because 10/9 in Korea is a national holiday. So that was like, what? But then it became a very welcomed thing, a very welcome coincidence, because we didn't have to work on our birthdays. Like, some folks, their birthday comes and then, they have to go to work. But because it's a national holiday, it was like, hey man, everybody has a day off and it's your birthday. That's great for you. So that was cool. But that also reinforced this idea of, hey, 10/9 is something interesting, something unique. Wow. First friend I make, my identification number, and now a national holiday. Wow, all of that played into my psyche, where I'm like, 10/9, 10/9, 10/9. Certainly, I would get bogged down, stressed, and I would need to relax, run away from Korea. And so when I did run away from Korea, I would go to Japan, because for a number of years I didn't have enough money to really travel very far, and Japan was like the closest. It was the nearest location. So when I got to Japan and I found the word Tokyo written everywhere, and when I saw the building Shibuya 109, Well, when I saw Tokyo, I was perplexed. What the heck does that mean? Why isn't it Tokyo? Why does it, why do they have signs that say Tokyo everywhere? And then Shibuya 109 was just like, yeah, dude, pay attention. 109 is special. I knew it was a number, and I knew the connection 109 was an allusion to my birthday, but it was like, I have no idea why the Japanese chose it, you know, for the name of this building. And I have no idea what Tokyo means. And that took years. I didn't learn that until a couple of years ago. I didn't learn that. Didn't learn what 109 meant to the Japanese, but a couple of years ago. Because again, I really wasn't paying attention to these numbers. I really wasn't saying, hey, that's my birthday. Oh, look, those numbers, those are the numbers. That's the Korean holiday in Korea. Oh, look, that's Shibuya 109. I wasn't doing all of this. I just noted it, remembered it. I didn't even, when I was in Tokyo for the first time, when I visited Shibuya 109, I wasn't there to take pictures of a building. I was there because I learned about the Black for Life shop. Some cute girls run this black business where they sell clothes inspired by a black lifestyle, whatever that is. Hip hop, reggae styles, they're into it. And the girls, the Japanese girls who are selling the stuff, get their skin tanned. They go to the tanning salon so that they look, you know, deeply melanated and whatnot. I was going to Shibuya 109 to see these girls. Yeah, I was single at the time, but also I wasn't going there to hit on them. I was just going up there to be like, this is like a black space, a place in Asia where, like, to be black is to be cool, is to be accepted. So I was like, let me go check this out. Again, I had no idea what Tokyo meant while I was there, and I wasn't paying attention to that. I certainly remembered, what the heck does Tokyo mean? I remember that, but that was about it. So then cut to, you know, all of these years later, and let's see, when I left Korea in 2016, like I would say like some spiritual things, some good spiritual things happened. Like 2015 was a very good year. It was the year of the Ram. That was my that's my Chinese zodiac year. And that year was very auspicious for me because I went to Peru that year. The point here is I wasn't traveling outside of Korea and America for nearly the 10 years that I lived in Korea. So I would fly to Korea, and then my mom and dad, my family would tell me, oh, come home. And I would return home during my holidays rather than travel to other countries and be curious and adventurous and be a tourist and whatnot. I would just go back to my familiar, surroundings to be with my family, visit my grandmothers, visit my grandparents, visit my mom and dad, my nieces. All of that was well worth it, but I missed the opportunity to travel. And so what happened is in 2015, some strange things happened. Yes, it was my year. It was my Chinese zodiac year, and the year of the Ram. And that year, in addition to having great luck with jobs, I was back working in Korea. I saved up money so that I had enough to travel to the Philippines for the first time. So the Philippines was already the icing on the cake. It was like, wow, you went to the Philippines. Great job. Good for you. And on top of that, because I had been traveling back and forth from America and Korea for so many years, I had like 40,000 miles on frequent flyer miles, you know, and I was able to fly to the Philippines for like maybe $30 round trip. I used those miles to get me from Korea to the Philippines, and then from the Philippines to Guam, and then from Guam to back to Korea. So the Philippines was nice, but then after the Philippines, I also went to China. I had the visa. I prepared the visa, and I almost ran out of time because the visa almost expired. I wasted so much time. I didn't know when I would have the ability to get to China. And before the visa expired, I just booked a flight and I got the heck out of Korea over a weekend, over a long 3 or 4 day weekend, and I came back. Between China and Korea, it's only maybe like a 2-hour flight. So in 2005, Korea, the United States, the Philippines, China, Japan. I was going back and forth between Korea and Japan because Japan was just so close to Korea. And then, where did I go? Yeah. And then I got a job in Peru. It was a 2-week job in Peru in 2015. It was beautiful. I earned more money than I had ever earned in a month in 2 weeks. I earned a monthly salary more than the monthly salary that I had ever earned in Korea. And I earned it in 2 weeks in Peru. That was amazing. So 2015 shaped up to be a truly auspicious year, one that saw me travel to at least 7 countries. When I flew between America and Peru, I had a layover in Panama. And then on my way from Peru back to Korea, I had a layover in Canada. So Canada, Panama, the USA, Korea, the Philippines, China, and Japan, and Peru. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, so that's 8 countries in total, including America. But that's like seven countries outside of America, outside of my home. So that was a truly auspicious year, because any other year pre-2015 for me, I had only been to maybe 2 countries: Korea, America, Japan. And once in 2012, I went to Taiwan. Right? Once I went to Taiwan. But, between 2012 when I went to Taiwan and 2015, that's 3 years. I was either visiting America, living in Korea, or visiting Japan. It was America, Japan, or Korea. That's it. So I wasn't traveling. Now, with regard to those travels, now that was a very spiritual year, because that was my year and things perked up for me, right? All right. So as far as seeing the numbers 10 and 9 during those travels, during those trips, nah, I don't have any moments. I can't really speak on that. There's nothing that really happened, except for just this idea that the ram, the lamb, the goat. Okay. Here's a coincidence that occurred in 2015 during my travels. The ram, the lamb, the goat, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to call these types of animals. It was the year of the ram, the year of the lamb, the year of the goat. And when I was in the Philippines, I was hiking up, what what is it? Taal volcano, and I happened to come across a ram, a lamb, or a goat, whatever you want to call it. And I thought, hey, that's pretty interesting. It's the year of the ram. I see a ram, and that's me. That's my year. So I was like, that's pretty cool. So that was like the first time a coincidence really caught my eye and made me think, hey, this is kind of interesting here. Or this is kind of cool, you know. But still, there was no connection to 109. No, I didn't. Nope, nothing. However, there might have been moments along my travels in 2015 whereby I would have a seat assignment in, let's say, which row? Let's say maybe row 19, and there's 19 right there. And maybe I was playing with numbers and I thought, oh, 1 and 9 equals 10. Or maybe I was seated in a row, what? I want to say 37, but 37 seems like too great a number, a row number. I think the seat numbers might go to 35 or something on an airplane. But let's just say, if I was assigned a seat in row 37, I might look at that and say, ooh, 3 plus 7, that equals 10, right? And so in my mind, I was already, playing these, doing these mathematical, functions, mathematical, I was adding the numbers up. And so 10 and 9 was usually my sum, right? It might be row 27, and I would add 2 plus 7 would equal 9. So I think in a very peculiar way, I was playing with numbers. I mean, think about it. What else are you going to do when you're bored on a flight, on a long 10-hour flight? But just look around at things. And I mean, I certainly wasn't reading any books. Well, that's not true. I don't want to give you the impression that I don't read. I remember reading many books. And but there were those moments when I would just be like, well, what else am I going to do? I might as well just watch a movie, sit here, relax, whatever. And a number might catch my eye. And for me, it was usually 10 or 9. So, let's get into 2016 and thereafter. Because, yeah, I've got some more things to say about this in 2016, all right?
You're at 109 right now.
Let's take a break, though. Be right back.
You're at 109 right now.
All right, so now we're talking about 2016. Just as a recap, I traveled to more countries than I had ever traveled to in 2015. So when 2016 rolled around, I guess I was ready for even more travel. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. After 2015, I was like, man, I'm ready to travel. I need some more travel in my life. Can't believe I lost nearly 10 years whereby I didn't travel. I can't let that happen again. That was wholly a part of my MO. And I found a job in Saudi Arabia. And I decided to apply. It was a long, drawn-out process. I had a job. I already had a contract in Korea, and I really did not want to uproot myself for fear that I'd be unemployed if things fell through. And so with the job in Saudi Arabia that I applied for, when they contacted me and told me that they had a job, they also said that there were still some hoops I had to jump through. So I told them, look, we'll do all of the paperwork and we'll get everything finalized. And then after that's done, then I'll quit, or then I'll leave my job in Korea. I mean, that's the most prudent thing to do, right? The most practical, most responsible thing to do, because I didn't want to be unemployed. And so we went through the whole process, and when I did have a job in Saudi Arabia, and when they said, come on to Saudi Arabia, here's your ticket, etc., then you know what? I still hadn't told my boss in Korea. And in fact, we had a meeting before we went on summer break. And during the meeting, I tried to tell my boss, I said, I've been applying for a job in Saudi Arabia. They pay more money. I'm interested in moving to Saudi Arabia. But my boss was kind of like, yeah, but you already work here. You want to stay with us, and it'll be better if you stay with us, and all of this other kind of stuff. And I literally was telling them, no, I don't want to stay with you. You're not paying me well enough. You're cutting my hours back. I don't like my living arrangement. There were reasons why I needed to leave. And so I just told them, I'm like, look, I'm thinking about Saudi Arabia. But they're like, nah, we think you're going to stay. So just stick with us. And I said, yeah, I guess you're right. I'll stick with you guys. But in the back of my mind, I was saying, man, screw this. If Saudi Arabia sends me a ticket, I'm jumping on that plane and I'm not coming back to Korea. And basically that's what happened. The summer passed, and when we were supposed to return to South Korea to work, I already had accepted the job in Saudi Arabia, and I was pretty much on my way to Saudi Arabia. Everything worked out. So in 2016, and the reason why I moved to Saudi Arabia was, yes, because of the money, because of the living arrangement. I was going to have a home. It turned out to be a 2-bedroom apartment, which was beautiful. It was lovely, because in Korea I had a dorm room. I was a university assistant professor, and I lived out of a dorm room on the campus. So as soon as my class ended, you could see me walk back to my dorm room, maybe change my clothes from a shirt and a tie into some jeans and sneakers. Like he was just teaching us. Now he's walking around looking bummy. Yeah, it was a welcome change for me. So yeah, there was money. Money was a big part of it. Living arrangements, that was another. And then seeing the world, doing what I wanted to do when I moved to Korea, which was travel. Then I really said, and after having lost so much time, I thought, man, you better turn it up a notch and better get to traveling. And so Saudi Arabia became that for me. It became an opportunity for me to travel, for me to earn more money, and for me to live a better life. So that's what happened. So when I got to Saudi Arabia, that's what happened. I started enjoying life. I started traveling a lot more. Now, I'm still supposed to talk about 10-9 here, and it was a huge shift for me moving to Saudi Arabia. But yeah, and I still had remnants of life in Korea, and I still do to this day. I still remember the Korean language. I still eat Korean food whenever I can. Yeah, that hasn't, I haven't lost that desire. But anyway, 2016. So now I'm in Saudi Arabia, and the thing about Saudi Arabia was I'm going to go to, Europe. I'm going to go to Asia, and I'm going to go to Africa. These are on my mind. Africa was the first on my mind. That's the first priority. Go to Africa, because I had never been. And then Europe. That was the second priority, right? And then the third priority was go back to Asia. Yep. And so with regard to Africa, oh, and by the way, I guess the fourth priority was see more of the Middle East, which I did, right? But Africa was high on my list of priorities, travel priorities. So I wanted to go to Ethiopia because I had heard so much, I learned so much about Ethiopia from Dr. Henry Louis Gates Jr. Documentaries, that it was like, I'm going to Ethiopia. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm going to see Ethiopia. Now, when I saw Ethiopia, and for everything that I learned in Ethiopia, then my whole life changed. I mean, I was in the Middle East, and I felt a great pressure to convert to Islam, because I thought, well, my life has brought me to this point. Every which way, everywhere that I look, all I see are Muslims. I see black men older than me who have converted to Islam. Maybe this is what I need to do as well. And when I traveled to Ethiopia, I saw a different history, and I learned a different history. And I guess I felt comfortable in my being a Christian. Not that I go to church, not that I read the Bible, not that I practice Christianity, however that can be, practiced. I don't observe particular holidays. I do more observing of, I did more observance of Muslim holidays. And I guess with what I say, with my speech, I am more Muslim, Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum salam, kaif halik, alhamdulillah, mashallah, inshallah, this type of thing. And so I was like, man, I'm good. After Ethiopia, I'm like, man, this is the oldest Christian nation, and they're black. I see black angels on the walls of churches. I see depictions of black Jesus. Oh man, this is for me right here. So I was like, man, I'm Ethiopian Christian, I'm good. And that was all that there was to it. So after Ethiopia, I made more travels. Let me see, 2016, I went to Turkey in 2016. Oh, by the way, so I arrived in Saudi Arabia in August of 2016, and I didn't get a chance to travel until December, with work and all of that. So by the time I got out, I went to Turkey. That was the first country I traveled to from Saudi Arabia. But then 2017 hit, and then we started getting these holidays, these Islamic Eid holidays, plus Ramadan is a 6-week holiday. And so in 2017, I was like, man, for everything that I had to do to or for everything that I could not do in Saudi Arabia, it's a highly repressive country. There are no clubs, there were no movie theaters, women could not drive at that time, like no drugs, no alcohol, no music, like no dancing. There's nothing to do in Saudi Arabia but pray, but observe your religion 5 times a day, right? Publicly. So I was ready to leave Saudi Arabia at the drop of a hat, any time. Oh, there's a holiday? I'm out of here. I'm flying somewhere. Oh, we've got 6 weeks? Oh, I'm traveling the globe. I'm making it count, I had the money, I had the time. Oh, it was lovely. So I said, screw it, let's do it. So in 2017, I traveled to 17 countries. Now, this is what happened with those travels. Spooky things started happening. Okay, so first I want to tell you that I went back to Peru. So I went to Peru in 2015. I made it a point to go back to Peru in 2017 because I had not visited Machu Picchu. All right. So I'll tell you, I went to Machu Picchu and I summited Machu Picchu at basically 10:09 a.m. There are some other details to it, but let's just keep it moving. That's what happened. So when I saw those numbers atop Machu Picchu, I was like, wow. The other thing about it is Machu Picchu is like this highly spiritual location, or at least it can be. It can be thought of as that. Certainly a beautiful, peaceful place, high in the Andean mountains and whatnot. And to see those familiar numbers up there, that was just so big, so incredibly coincidental and cool for me. So that was Peru. But even before Peru, I had traveled to Mexico. So I'm not even speaking chronologically. I'm just thinking, oh, this is coming to mind, So in 2017, I also went to Mexico. When I was in Mexico, I noticed that they have a popular radio station. It's on 100.9, I guess, on the FM dial. And I noticed that on my way to the Frida Kahlo Museum. So I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. 109, that's 1009. Or you could even look at it and see 10:9. It doesn't matter that it's 100.9. Forget where the decimal point is. That's still the numbers 10 and 9. Same thing with the clock. 10:09, forget the colon, forget the AM or the PM, and just look at those digits. That is 10 and 9. I guess if I weren't so obsessed with 10 and 9, I might even say it's just the number 10 because 1 plus 9 is 10. But no, we have to stick within the tradition. It's 10 and 9 that we're dealing with here. Okay. And all right, so Mexico, I saw that license plate. I thought, oh, look at that. I went to Cuba, and as I'm reading about Ernesto Che Guevara's life, I see that he died on October 9th. That's the date. That's the infamous date that I'm so obsessed with, that I see allusions to in the clock, on radio stations, and now I made a connection with a historical figure, because he was killed on that day. And the reason why this resonated with me so deeply is because I was like, man, I'm in the country where he led the revolution. And then I'm making this connection with him. So I imagined it was a connection with his spirit. Like, wow, something spooky is happening. Now, the Cuba, I went from Mexico to Cuba and then I went to Peru. So Mexico was first, where I saw 100.9 on the FM dial. And then Cuba, I saw October 9th for Che Guevara. And then I got to Peru and I saw 10:09 on my clock. So by 2017, 10:09 started really hitting. It started resonating with me. It started making me wonder, what's going on with these numbers? Why do I keep seeing them? And so also in 2017, because I kept traveling, the same thing was happening where I would get assigned a seat in row 27, 37, 19, row 9, row 10, and I'm always fluctuating and I'm always thinking about these numbers 10 and 9 along my journey. And that's what happened. There's that one day I traveled to Bahrain from Saudi Arabia, and I walked into the hotel room. It was actually a motel room. And I happened to look at the satellite dish or the channel receiver or whatever, and it was set to frequency 109. And frequency 109 was not the channel. It wasn't as if someone left the channel on channel 109. It was a frequency that the box stayed on. And there it was, 109. Okay. So I'm like, what the heck? I traveled to Sri Lanka. And then after my trip to Sri Lanka, I came back to Saudi Arabia. Now in Sri Lanka, I didn't see 109. I mean, I went gambling, Sri Lanka, in Colombo, Sri Lanka. They have some casinos. I played some numbers, and when you get dealt a 10 or a 9, that'll make you think, oh wow, that's 10 and 9. But aside from just playing some card games, which you would expect to see those numbers, I didn't have any moments where I really resonated with 10 and 9 in Sri Lanka. And so I started to think like, well, maybe I'm over my obsession with these numbers. Maybe I'm over this fixation. Maybe it's this spiritual haunting is over. I'm done with it. And then as soon as I get back to Saudi Arabia, I whistled for a cab, and when it came near, the license plate read 109, and it had me feeling weird. If anything, I could say that this cab was rare, but I thought to myself, yo, home's to Bel Air. After experiencing all this stuff, I wrote that. I changed those lyrics. I changed Will Smith's lyrics to fit the poem that I wrote. But anyway, yeah, I come back from Sri Lanka. I'm like, man, I haven't seen those numbers. I'm good. I get back to Saudi Arabia, and then I try to hail a taxi, and the first 3 digits of that taxi are 109 of the taxi's license plate. The first 3 digits of the taxi's license plate, 109. I'm like, man, what the hell? So all I'm doing is just telling you about these coincidences, these moments that just, stick out to me, right? But let's go back to these videos on YouTube that I found today. Someone else out there is wondering, the fuck does 109 mean? How is this happening? Okay, and then the other person, where is it? Just what exactly is 109? There's a movie, and in the movie, 109 is a part of this enigma, this mystery number that this uniformed galaxy-faced figure, has hover above his hand. 109 is in that. It's QR0109, but 109 is right there, okay? It's there, and it's there for someone to ponder. What the hell does 109 mean? And here's the fuck does 109 mean? So I'm not alone. Now, I remember I started taking photos of 109 instances. I'd come across a license plate in a peculiar moment, and I would snap the photo, post it to Instagram or whatever, and I would collect these moments. And, I started talking to people and telling them about these 109 instances, and then people started showing me their cell phones and telling me that, that they've encountered another set of numbers. Like they will find themselves looking at a particular looking at a clock or encountering a particular set of numbers that they thought was peculiar, and they collected those moments on their phones. And so that was a moment of comfort, of bonding, of relating with one another. So this might have seemed weird and strange to me, but after sharing it with other people and hearing them talk about it, I'm like, yo, this is bizarre. And I'm so happy to find out that someone else wants to know, the fuck does 109 mean? All right. So I'm happy to report, yeah, I did find out what Tokyo means. Instead of writing Tokyo in Tokyo, they write Tokyo. That's because it means 10-9. And then they chose 109 for Shibuya 109 because 109 is or could be read as 10-9 like Tokyo. So you got Shibuya Tokyo or Shibuya Tokyo. These are just plays, puns. These are puns. And then the thing about it is, I lost my train of thought there. Yeah, but you see these things. I wasn't looking for it. It is what it is. I know. Oh, it's 10-9, 109 in Japan, but they don't call the store Shibuya Tokyo. They call it Shibuya Ichimaru-kyu. Ichimaru-kyu. I learned that because I have a friend in Japan who told me about that. She explained it to me. She was like, we don't say Tokyo. We say Ichimaru-kyu. I'm like, oh, okay. Ichimaru-kyu 109. That's what they say. So that's cool. That's real cool. So anyway, these are the 10-9 Chronicles that I'm giving you. Let's get into this. Let's talk a little bit about Basquiat. I've already talked about it in another podcast, but we're going to get into it a little bit. Just touch on it just to say, man, this is some, let's get into the interpretation of 10-9. That's what we need to get into next. Okay. All right. Be right back.
You're at 109 right now.
All right, so let's get into the interpretation, shall we? And to get into the interpretation, we have to. All right, so first of all, the premise we have to establish that I traveled to Ethiopia. I learned about Ethiopia, and I even saw 109 or 10-9 in Ethiopia. It was written on a bathroom door. I just walked. It wasn't supposed to be there because the numbers to that door were affixed to the door. It was on the second floor. It was a 200 something number 201-202, like two offices behind this one door. But someone had written the number 109 on the door, so it wasn't supposed to be there. But because I saw it in Ethiopia, I had some reason to associate Ethiopia with my conclusion, with my interpretation. Because had I not had that connection with Ethiopia, I might be struggling to find meaning to this. But it happened in Ethiopia. So yeah, so perhaps, it makes sense. It makes more sense to me, right? Maybe not to someone else, but to me, definitely. All right. But that's why I make these podcasts, in order to explain it to someone else. So hopefully they will understand and it will resonate with them too. All right. So, but Ethiopia was very important. As far as the other countries, I saw 109 in a lot of different countries. I have all of these little moments, whether it's flying on airplanes or airplanes landing at 10:09 a.m. or 10:09 p.m. or whatever, being ushered to gate 10 or gate 9, or like last year, I was told go to gate 10, and then once I boarded the plane, I was seated in row 9. I didn't ask to be seated in row 9, and I think they changed my seat assignment, but I didn't know that we were gonna sit and wait at gate 10. So those were like neat coincidences. Oh, Sweden and Denmark. I was waiting to board the plane, and the security officer told, he was directing the line. He was like, go over here, go over there. And then when I was the next person in line, he said, go over there. and he directed me to line 10. So I could see 10-9 there. And then, I'm not going in chronological order here, so I'm bouncing around. There was that time I was in Japan, and I went to the Japanese restaurant for the first time, and the usher, seated me in row 10. Or not in row 10, but he seated me in booth seat 10 with the booth number 10. And when I looked up to look at the number of the booth, I could see 10 and 9, because the Japanese write from right to left. So the numbers were written in ascending order from right to left. So that's how I saw 10-9. It was in Japanese, so I had to read the Japanese characters. It wasn't like the number, it was 10 and then 9. No, this was the number 10 in Japanese is a cross or a crucifix, right? And then they have this funky setup that looks like an H for the number 9 in Japanese. Same thing with Chinese. So I'm just recapping, just telling you some other moments that happened with these numbers along my journey, along my travels throughout the globe. And having the connection, or learning about 10-9, learning the connection between myself and Che Guevara, with that date while I was in Cuba, that was huge. That was really huge. It was like, man, you're connecting with the spirits. Same thing in Machu Picchu in Peru, atop the mountain. It was like, man, you're connecting with the spirits. It was really at Machu Picchu where it really resonated with me, and it really suggested the spirits are talking through the numbers. See, before I went to Machu Picchu, my cousin told me, get to the mountain, go up there early in the morning and meditate. It's a highly spiritual location, and you want it to yourself. So go early in the morning. Well, I didn't get there early in the morning. There were other people up there meditating, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I took selfies and all that other type of stuff, and I was like, well, it's a peaceful place, and I took the selfies. I don't know what else to do. And then I looked at my watch, and I saw 10:08, and I said, man, I keep seeing 10:09. Maybe the spirits are talking to me through these numbers, and the spirits are saying you have one more minute atop Machu Picchu. At 10:09, you should make your descent off of the mountain. I imagined all of that, and I said, all right, I think the spirits are speaking to me through these numbers. So when I was atop Machu Picchu, like, that piece of the puzzle had been established. The spirits are speaking to you through these numbers. So in 2017, that was in Machu Picchu. The time when I saw the number 109 in Ethiopia, that happened in 2018. And I specifically remember 2018, I was gung-ho, I was rah-rah, all for Nipsey. I was even wearing a Nipsey Crenshaw sweatshirt in Ethiopia as I walked through the city. I was so proud. I was like, man, Nipsey is doing some big things, and I'm doing big things too, because I'm traveling the globe. So I brought a little piece of Los Angeles, of my hometown, with me in the form of a Nipsey Hussle Crenshaw sweatshirt. Now, a year later, Nipsey would be dead. And I was sad because Nipsey was my hero at that point. He was my then hero, my current hero. I've had plenty of heroes, from Tupac Shakur to DJ Quick to Jean-Michel Basquiat. All right. Yeah. And and so what happened to me is, while I was in, what happened next? With these numbers, 2017, 2018, by 2019, okay, wait, let's go back. I think it was 2018, 2019, maybe, I'm not sure. I was in Colombia. I went to sleep at 9 o'clock and then I woke up at 1:09 a.m. That was bizarre. 1:09 a.m. in Colombia for no reason. There were no loud sounds. There was nothing to wake me up. It was just boom, wake up. And I got up at 1:09 a.m. I went back to sleep. I checked my watch, my cell phone, but it was like, what a bizarre thing to happen. Just to wake up randomly at 1:09. So then, that's Colombia. After Colombia, then there was, what else was there? 2018. And then I flew to Oman to work. I was kind of running. I didn't say this. In 2018, I left Saudi Arabia. I flew back to America. I tried to save some money. I flew to South American countries, Costa Rica, and then I flew to Colombia before returning to America, interviewing for another job, and then getting hired in a Middle Eastern country. The country is Oman. So all of that transpired. So by the time I'm ready to go back to Oman, I'm ready to chase more dollars, and I'm ready to, have a nice setup like I had in Saudi Arabia. And I'm just like, let's get on with it. I'm ready to get back into the classroom. And so anyway, I go to Oman, and then this is where the story just picks up, because 1:09 just started to hit. Those numbers started hitting in Oman. The first thing that happened is as I was walking into the headquarters, the office, to sign my 1-year contract, my 1-year work contract in Oman, I noticed that there was a car parked outside of the office, and it had the license plate number 10914. Now, by this point, I was fully aware of 109, so I was delighted to see 109, but I didn't want to obsess over it. So I was just like, okay, I see it, yeah, but screw it. However, in that moment, I used it as a good omen, because I was thousands of miles away from home. I was alone. I was chasing these dollars. I was going in to sign my life away for another year. And I was like, am I doing the right thing? Should I actually, I don't know. I can't exercise a lot of agency. I'm like, damn, I'm somebody's slave. I'm somebody's bitch. I'm far away from my family, and I'm just chasing these dollars. Is this the right thing for me to do? And when I saw that license plate outside of the office just before I was going to sign that contract, it was kind of like confirmation, like, you're supposed to be right where you are. Bizarre, but true. That's exactly what happened. And I was like, okay. So relax, Larry. You're exactly where you need to be. And I didn't pay any attention to that license plate thereafter. I signed the contract, and then they whisked me away to the city where I would work. And I wouldn't go back to that office, but for 6 or 7 months later, they actually fired me. And I had to sign documents so that I could leave the country. So I went to that office, to the headquarters, to sign documents to sign on, and then I had to sign off. But in between that time, my time of arrival and my time of departure from Oman, this is what happened to me, and this is how 109 hit. First, it was that license plate outside of the headquarters, and then Nipsey Hussle was murdered on March 31st, 2019, which will, 4 days? Oh, I made a mistake in that other video. I said it was 4 days. I was recording yesterday, whatever. So 4 days from now. Well, today is Tuesday, right? So by Friday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. 4 days, okay. It will be March 31st of 2023. Anyhow, it was March 31st, 2019 when Nipsey Hussle was murdered. And within an hour of learning of his murder, I was on my way driving to work when I'm in the desert. I'm pretty much, one of only 2 cars on the road of this desert road, and the car, which was actually a truck, cut me off. And the license plate of that truck was, you probably guessed it, 1090. That's all that there was on that license plate, 1090. They had some Arabic, information, identifiers, but the license plate number was 1090. So as I saw that, think about my mental state. 1, I was saddened by the news of, the death of my hometown hero. I'm thousands of miles away from my family, whom I miss, and I'm lonely. And now this guy just cut me off, and now I'm angry. But once I saw 109, remember when I saw it outside of the headquarters, and I felt that it was giving me a good omen, like, relax, you're where you need to be. I felt the same way. I thought, well, maybe I'm supposed to see those numbers. Maybe I'm right where I'm supposed to be. So there was like a calmness that washed over me, and I was like, don't stress, don't stress. So in that moment, I was no longer saddened. I mean, Nipsey's murder affected me deeply, but I really wasn't saddened. I was searching for meaning in all of it. So I wasn't saddened. I was no longer angry, and I just put everything in God's hands. I relinquished all of the power to God. I said, God, this is your plan. And so that's what happened. So after that, I went to work. It was a very somber, very sad week for all the things that happened. And then 7 days after Nipsey's murder, I saw a crucifix in the sky. I saw a crucifix over the skies of the city where I lived for 4 or 5 months up until that point. A crucifix. And I knew that airplanes created chemtrails or contrails, but because no airplanes flew overhead in that particular city, especially at the particular altitude at which those lines were there, and I couldn't fathom that, some airplanes just randomly decided to fly overhead on that particular day, probably minutes before I left my home, so that I could see those lines. None of that was possible. So it was like, for what I saw, it was a miracle. And you couldn't tell me that 2 airplanes flew overhead to create those lines. It was something that I was meant to see. I saw it, and we're done. But because I had seen it, because I had seen 109 the day that Nipsey had been murdered, because I had seen 109 in Ethiopia, because the spirits had connected me with Che Guevara when I was in Cuba, and because the spirits were talking to me through those numbers, 109, it was clear to me that I was having some sort of spiritual experience out in the desert, like so many biblical figures. Moses, for one, in the burning bush in the desert. I don't know. I have to do some more Bible studies to learn more of the stories. But a lot of those prophets have stories that take place in the deserts. But anyway, we live in the age of technology, so I was able to snap a photo of that crucifix in the sky as proof of what I saw. But it became clear to me after that crucifix that there was some big connection with Nipsey. There was some reason why I saw 109 when, after learning about Nipsey's murder, it was like, yeah, all of this stuff was just big. It was hitting. It was resonating with me deeply. It was big. It was like, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. And that all happened in Oman. And so for me in Oman, it's the fact that 109, Nipsey, and a crucifix. Those are the three things that I'll take away from my experience in Oman. I saw 109, Nipsey, and a crucifix. All right, those three things are like seared in my memory. Those are forever associated together. 109, Nipsey, and a crucifix. And then, you know, I mentioned I got fired, so I came home to Los Angeles, and by the time I came home, then it was time for, you know, to start my life or whatever. But at least, you know, I just thought, man, I have a story now. I literally have a story. I need to write my story. I need to put it together. I need to sell my story. And I was quite proud of myself for having traveled the world and come to some conclusion, you know, come to having written a story, that something that I could sell, perhaps to support myself. And so that's where all of this 109 stuff comes from. It's like this desire for me to sell my story, to sell it. I've got a story to sell. What else do you do in a capitalist society? But you sell. You start a business. Entrepreneurial spirit is big in a capitalist society. So that's what I'm doing. Sharing my story. I've got a story to tell and sell. And so with that, you know, I left Oman with those three ideals. 109, Nipsey, and a crucifix are seared in my brain, right? But then let's go back to that car license plate outside of the headquarters. When I came home from Oman, sorry if I'm jumping around and if it's difficult to follow me, but let's go back to Oman. That car outside of the headquarters on the day that I signed the contract to come into Oman. Well, I had to go back to that same headquarters office to sign the documents to go out of Oman. And that car was still parked out in front of the headquarters. So the second time I decided, damn it, I'm not going to miss an opportunity to take a photo of that car. I saw that car, doggone it, I need to take a photo of it. So I snap a photo, and when I get back to LA, I marry my 4th grade classmate. And after we get married, we're looking at some pictures from Oman, and I'm talking about these whole events, all of this stuff that happened to me. And she's like, look at that picture. And I'm like, what? I look at the picture, and although all I had noticed were the first 3 digits of that license plate of that car outside of the headquarters, because those 3 digits are so reminiscent, are so memorable for me, 10 and 9. My wife told me, look at those last 3 digits on that license plate, 914, because those digits are a reference, are an allusion to our wedding day. And that blew me away, because it was like, there's so much baked into that license plate, and I hadn't even noticed it, hadn't even realized it. And in fact, the date on which we got married, it wasn't chosen to be a special day per se. It wasn't like, oh, it has to be on this particular day. Like for some people, 777 would be a auspicious day, right? Which was July 7th of 2007, right? Or 888, right? August 8th of 2008. You know, stuff like this. We chose it because, well, I chose that date. I said to my wife, I said, Randy, we got to get married. We can't, getting married doesn't fit your schedule, your work schedule. So we got to go on a weekend, and we could just drive to Vegas and get married. So she was like, okay. So that's how we did it. And yeah, 9/14 wasn't a particular special day. It is a special day to us, but it's like that license plate foretold, of how special that would be. Crazy, right? This is crazy stuff. This is like unbelievable. But I've got the evidence to show. I've got pictures of that car. I've got these stories, All right, so back to 109 Nipsey and a crucifix and how they're associated with each other. I'm going to hopefully end this with one more section. So we're going to stop now. And we're going to come back in a minute.
You're at 109 right now.
All right, so now we're talking about 2016. Just as a recap, I traveled to more countries than I had ever traveled to in 2015. So when 2016 rolled around, I guess I was ready for even more travel. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. After 2015, I was like, man, I'm ready to travel. I need some more travel in my life. Can't believe I lost nearly 10 years whereby I didn't travel. I can't let that happen again. That was wholly a part of my MO. And I found a job in Saudi Arabia. And I decided to apply. It was a long, drawn-out process. I had a job. I already had a contract in Korea, and I really did not want to uproot myself for fear that I'd be unemployed if things fell through. And so, with the job in Saudi Arabia that I applied for, when they contacted me and told me that they had a job, they also said that there were still some hoops I had to jump through. So I told them, look, we'll do all of the paperwork and we'll get everything finalized, and then after that's done, then I'll quit, or then I'll leave my job in Korea. I mean, that's the most prudent thing to do, right? The most practical, most responsible thing to do, because I didn't want to be unemployed. And so we went through the whole process, and when I did have a job in Saudi Arabia, and when they said, come on to Saudi Arabia, here's your ticket, etc., then you know what? I still hadn't told my boss in Korea. And in fact, we had a meeting before we went on summer break. And during the meeting, I tried to tell my boss, I said, I've been applying for a job in Saudi Arabia. They pay more money. I'm interested in moving to Saudi Arabia. But my boss was kind of like, yeah, but you already work here. You want to stay with us, and it'll be better if you stay with us, and all of this other kind of stuff. And I literally was telling them, no, I don't want to stay with you. You're not paying me well enough. You're cutting my hours back. I don't like my living arrangement. There were reasons why I needed to leave. And so I just told them, I'm like, look, I'm thinking about Saudi Arabia. But they're like, nah, we think you're going to stay. So just stick with us. And I said, yeah, I guess you're right. I'll stick with you guys. But in the back of my mind, I was saying, man, screw this. If Saudi Arabia sends me a ticket, I'm jumping on that plane and I'm not coming back to Korea. And basically that's what happened. The summer passed, and when we were supposed to return to South Korea to work, I already had accepted the job in Saudi Arabia, and I was pretty much on my way to Saudi Arabia. everything worked out. So in 2016, and the reason why I moved to Saudi Arabia was, yes, because of the money, because of the living arrangement. I was going to have a home. It turned out to be a 2-bedroom apartment, which was beautiful. It was lovely, because in Korea I had a dorm room. I was a university assistant professor, and I lived out of a dorm room on the campus. So as soon as my class ended, you could see me walk back to my dorm room, maybe change my clothes from a shirt and a tie into some jeans and sneakers. Like he was just teaching us. Now he's walking around looking bummy. Yeah, it was a welcome change for me. So, yeah, there was money. Money was a big part of it. Living arrangements, that was another. And then seeing the world, doing what I wanted to do when I moved to Korea, which was travel. Then I really said, and after having lost so much time, I thought, man, you better turn it up a notch and better get to traveling. And so Saudi Arabia became that for me. It became an opportunity for me to travel, for me to earn more money, and for me to live a better life. So that's what happened. So when I got to Saudi Arabia, that's what happened. I started enjoying life. I started traveling a lot more. Now, I'm still supposed to talk about 10-9 here, and it was a huge shift for me moving to Saudi Arabia. But yeah, and I still had remnants of life in Korea, and I still do to this day. I still remember the Korean language. I still eat Korean food whenever I can. Yeah, that hasn't, I haven't lost that desire. But anyway, 2016. So now I'm in Saudi Arabia, and the thing about Saudi Arabia was I'm going to go to, Europe. I'm going to go to Asia, and I'm going to go to Africa. These are on my mind. Africa was the first on my mind. That's the first priority. Go to Africa, because I had never been. And then Europe. That was the second priority, right? And then the third priority was go back to Asia. Yep. And so with regard to Africa, oh, and by the way, I guess the fourth priority was see more of the Middle East, which I did, right? But Africa was high on my list of priorities, travel priorities. So I wanted to go to Ethiopia because I had heard so much, I learned so much about Ethiopia from Dr. Henry Louis Gates Jr. Documentaries, that it was like, I'm going to Ethiopia. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm going to see Ethiopia. Now, when I saw Ethiopia, and for everything that I learned in Ethiopia, then my whole life changed. I mean, I was in the Middle East, and I felt a great pressure to convert to Islam, because I thought, well, my life has brought me to this point. Every which way, everywhere that I look, all I see are Muslims. I see black men older than me who have converted to Islam. Maybe this is what I need to do as well. And when I traveled to Ethiopia, I saw a different history, and I learned a different history. And I guess I felt comfortable in my being a Christian. Not that I go to church, not that I read the Bible, not that I practice Christianity, however that can be, practiced. I don't observe particular holidays. I do more observing of, I did more observance of Muslim holidays. And I guess with what I say, with my speech, I am more Muslim, Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum salam, kaif halik, alhamdulillah, mashallah, inshallah, this type of thing. And so I was like, man, I'm good. After Ethiopia, I'm like, man, this is the oldest Christian nation, and they're black. I see black angels on the walls of churches. I see depictions of black Jesus. Oh man, this is for me right here. So I was like, man, I'm Ethiopian Christian, I'm good. And that was all that there was to it. So after Ethiopia, I made more travels. Let me see. 2016, I went to Turkey in 2016. Oh, by the way, so I arrived in Saudi Arabia in August of 2016, and I didn't get a chance to travel until December. With work and all of that. So by the time I got out, I went to Turkey. That was the first country I traveled to from Saudi Arabia. But then 2017 hit, and then we started getting these holidays, these Islamic Eid holidays, plus Ramadan is a 6-week holiday. And so in 2017, I was like, man, for everything that I had to do or for everything that I could not do in Saudi Arabia, it's a highly repressive country. There are no clubs, there were no movie theaters, women could not drive at that time, like no drugs, no alcohol, no music, like no dancing. There's nothing to do in Saudi Arabia but pray, but observe your religion 5 times a day, right? Publicly. So I was ready to leave Saudi Arabia at the drop of a hat, any time. Oh, there's a holiday, I'm out of here. I'm flying somewhere. Oh, we've got 6 weeks. Oh, I'm traveling the globe. I'm making it count. I had the money, I had the time. Oh, it was lovely. So I said, screw it, let's do it. So in 2017, I traveled to 17 countries. Now, this is what happened with those travels. Spooky things started happening. Okay, so first I want to tell you that I went back to Peru. So I went to Peru in 2015. I made it a point to go back to Peru in 2017 because I had not visited Machu Picchu. All right. So I'll tell you, I went to Machu Picchu and I summited Machu Picchu at basically 10:09 a.m. There are some other details to it, but let's just keep it moving. That's what happened. So when I saw those numbers atop Machu Picchu, I was like, wow. The other thing about it is Machu Picchu is like this highly spiritual location, or at least it can be. It can be thought of as that. Certainly a beautiful, peaceful place, high in the Andean mountains and whatnot. And to see those familiar numbers up there, that was just so big, so incredibly coincidental and cool for me. So that was Peru. But even before Peru, I had traveled to Mexico. So I'm not even speaking chronologically. I'm just thinking, oh, this is coming to mind, So in 2017, I also went to Mexico. When I was in Mexico, I noticed that they have a popular radio station. It's on 100.9, I guess, on the FM dial. And I noticed that on my way to the Frida Kahlo Museum. So I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. 109, that's 1009. Or you could even look at it and see 10:9. It doesn't matter that it's 100.9. Forget where the decimal point is. That's still the numbers 10 and 9. Same thing with the clock. 10:09, forget the colon, forget the AM or the PM, and just look at those digits. That is 10 and 9. I guess if I weren't so obsessed with 10 and 9, I might even say it's just the number 10 because 1 plus 9 is 10. But no, we have to stick within the tradition. It's 10 and 9 that we're dealing with here. Okay. And all right, so Mexico, I saw that license plate. I thought, oh, look at that. I went to Cuba And as I'm reading about Ernesto Che Guevara's life, I see that he died on October 9th. That's the date. That's the infamous date that I'm so obsessed with, that I see allusions to in the clock, on radio stations, and now I made a connection with a historical figure, because he was killed on that date. And the reason why this resonated with me so deeply is because I was like, man, I'm in the country where he led the revolution. And then I'm making this connection with him. So I imagine it was a connection with his spirit. Like, wow, something spooky is happening. Now, the Cuba, I went from Mexico to Cuba, and then I went to Peru. So Mexico was first, where I saw 100.9 on the FM dial. And then Cuba, I saw October 9th for Che Guevara. And then I got to Peru and I saw 10:09 on my clock. So by 2017, 10:09 started really hitting. It started resonating with me. It started making me wonder, what's going on with these numbers? Why do I keep seeing them? And so also in 2017, because I kept traveling, the same thing was happening, where I would get assigned a seat in row 27, 37, 19, row 9, row 10, and I'm always fluctuating, and I'm always thinking about these numbers 10 and 9 along my journey. And that's what happened. There's that one day I traveled to Bahrain from Saudi Arabia, and I walked into the hotel room. It was actually a motel room. And I happened to look at the satellite dish, or the channel receiver or whatever, and it was set to frequency 109. And frequency 109 was not the channel. It wasn't as if someone left the channel on channel 109. It was a frequency that the box stayed on. And there it was, 109. Okay? So I'm like, what the heck? I traveled to Sri Lanka. And then after my trip to Sri Lanka, I came back to Saudi Arabia. Now in Sri Lanka, I didn't see 109. I mean, I went gambling. Sri Lanka, in Colombo, Sri Lanka, they have some casinos. I played some numbers, and when you get dealt a 10 or a 9, that'll make you think, oh wow, that's 10 and 9. But aside from just playing some card games, which you would expect to see those numbers, I didn't have any moments where I really resonated with 10 and 9 in Sri Lanka. And so I started to think, like, well, maybe I'm over my obsession with these numbers. Maybe I'm over this fixation. Maybe it's this spiritual haunting is over. I'm done with it. And then as soon as I get back to Saudi Arabia, I whistled for a cab, and when it came near, the license plate read 109, and it had me feeling weird. If anything, I could say that this cab was rare, but I thought to myself, yo, home's to Bel Air. After experiencing all this stuff, I wrote that. I changed those lyrics. I changed Will Smith's lyrics to fit the poem that I wrote. But anyway, yeah, I come back from Sri Lanka. I'm like, man, I haven't seen those numbers. I'm good. I get back to Saudi Arabia, and then I try to hail a taxi, and the first 3 digits of that taxi are 109 of the taxi's license plate. The first 3 digits of the taxi's license plate, 109. I'm like, man, what the hell? So all I'm doing is just telling you about these coincidences, these moments that just, stick out to me, right? But let's go back to these videos on YouTube that I found today. Someone else out there is wondering, the fuck does 109 mean? How is this happening? Okay. And then the other person, where is it? Just what exactly is 109? There's a movie, and in the movie, 109 is a part of this enigma, this mystery number that this uniformed galaxy-faced figure, has hover above his hand. 109 is in that. It's QR0109, but 109 is right there, okay? It's there, and it's there for someone to ponder. What the hell does 109 mean? And here's the fuck does 109 mean? So I'm not alone. Now, I remember I started taking photos of 109 instances. I'd come across a license plate in a peculiar moment, and I would snap the photo, post it to Instagram or whatever, and I would collect these moments. And, I started talking to people and telling them about these 109 instances, and then people started showing me their cell phones and telling me that, that they've encountered another set of numbers. Like they will find themselves looking at a particular, looking at a clock or encountering a particular set of numbers that they thought was peculiar. And they collected those moments on their phones. And so that was a moment of comfort, of bonding, of relating with one another. So this might have seemed weird and strange to me, but after sharing it with other people and hearing them talk about it, I'm like, yo, this is bizarre. And I'm so happy to find out that someone else wants to know, the fuck does 109 mean? All right. So I'm happy to report, I did find out what Tokyu means. Instead of writing Tokyo in Tokyo, they write Tokyu. That's because it means 10-9. And then they chose 109 for Shibuya 109 because 109 is or could be read as 10-9 like Tokyo. So you got Shibuya Tokyo or Shibuya Tokyo. These are just plays, puns. These are puns. And then the thing about it is, I lost my train of thought there. Yeah, but you see these things. I wasn't looking for it. It is what it is. I know. Oh, it's 10-9, 109 in Japan, but they don't call the store Shibuya Tokyu. They call it Shibuya Ichimaru-kyu. Ichimaru-kyu. I learned that because I have a friend in Japan who told me about that. She explained it to me. She was like, we don't say Tokyu. We say Ichimaru-kyu. I'm like, oh, okay. Ichimaru-kyu 109. That's what they say. So that's cool. That's real cool. So anyway, these are the 10-9 Chronicles that I'm giving you. Let's get into this. Let's talk a little bit about Basquiat. I've already talked about it in another podcast, but we're going to get into it a little bit. Just touch on it just to say, man, this is some, let's get into the interpretation of 10-9. That's what we need to get into next. Okay. All right. Be right back.
You're at 109 right now.
All right, let's get back into this and hopefully wrap this up. 109, Nipsey and a Crucifix in Oman. I come back to LA and I buy a DVD about my favorite artist, Jean-Michel Basquiat. I'm watching the DVD, and At 11:09 p.m., I noticed that Jean-Michel Basquiat wrote 109 on the painting. On the painting that was featured in the DVD that I was watching. So I jumped up, took a photo, ran it back. I played it back. I posted the photo to Facebook. It was 11:09 p.m. when I made this discovery. That's crazy, right? So like here it is again, 109, 109, 109. One day I'm in Los Angeles and I'm curious to see Nipsey Hussle's mural. So I did some research and I'm looking for the mural. I want to get a closer look of it. I've seen it online. I had seen it in 2019 or 2020 when it was painted. Probably it was painted in 2019. I don't know. It was a tribute to Nipsey, and I wanted to see it with my very own eyes. I found the school where this mural was painted of Nipsey. I mean, Nipsey's murals are painted all over the city, but I found this particular one, and I noticed that the school, on its playground where this mural was painted, I noticed that the school is right next to an address that is 6109. 109. It's a beautiful school, beautiful in its mission and beautiful, just beautiful in its mission, period. You gotta watch a video about the school and its mission and how it serves the community. It's truly doing God's work, right? So, the school has, I guess it's a parochial school, because you can see that there's a church attached to it. And then there are a number of crucifixes that adorn the school from the front door to, there's a building on its property, right? And you can clearly see a crucifix on the property. So on the day that I went and I searched for the mural, I came across a mural of Nipsey Hussle. I came across a crucifix right there on the campus. And then I came across the apartment building that is located right next door with the address number 6109. So just as I was in Oman and 109 Nipsey and a crucifix seared a memory in my brain, and I made that association in Oman, which is like 8,000 miles away from LA. Once again, in very close proximity, three things: a crucifix, a mural of Nipsey Hussle, and the numbers 109 were once again associated, or I could see it again. That's huge. That's crazy. How does that happen? But it wasn't the first time in Los Angeles that happened. 109, Nipsey, and perhaps a cross. I'll tell you the story very briefly about the day when Nipsey's hearse, pulled up alongside me. So I was driving for Uber. This was about 3 years ago. I pulled up to an intersection and there was a bus next to me, to the left of me, waiting at this red light at this intersection. And the bus number was conspicuous in big, bold letters. The bus number was 109. So I saw that and I said, oh, here we go again. 109. There's that. And then hours later, 3 or 4 hours later, as I mentioned, I was driving for Uber at this time. A few hours later, I'm in a different part of the city and I'm waiting for the light to turn. I'm at another intersection and I notice a car pulling up behind me and then alongside me, and then it passes me and turns left. And it's a peculiar car because I noticed the color, I noticed how clean it was, and I noticed how long or how big this car was. And only after the car passed and turned, while I was still sitting at the light, did I realize, hey, That's a hearse, right? So imagine just a few hours before this hearse turned at the same intersection where I was waiting for the light to turn green, I had already seen the number 109. And then a few hours later, this hearse pulls up near me and turns to the left. That hearse, I deduced, was Nipsey Hussle's hearse. How did I arrive at the conclusion? I distinctly remember the license plate beginning with the number 7. I went back to Google and I started searching for pictures from Nipsey Hussle's funeral procession, and I saw that the hearse carrying Nipsey Hussle was exactly the style that I saw. It was a Cadillac with white wall wheels. It was gray, it was black, and the license plate began with the number 7. Unless Angelus Funeral Homes has a fleet of cars that begin with the number 7, I'm guessing the car that I saw was Nipsey Hussle's hearse. Now, as far as the crucifix, because as I said, 8,000 miles away while I was in Oman, I saw 109 Nipsey and a crucifix. And then when I came back to LA, I went to the school. It's called Crete Academy. And I noticed that Nipsey Hussle's mural is there. You can also see a crucifix, and you can also see the numbers 109, the address of the apartment building immediately adjacent to the school. I did not see a crucifix per se. So on that day that I saw the Nipsey's hearse, I didn't see a crucifix. But then I thought about it and I did some little mental gymnastics and imagining. And I thought, well, I was at an intersection. The intersection represents the cross. If you're looking down from a bird's eye view, you can see the intersection. There's the cross right there. Let me see if I have any other stories like that. No, I don't think so. All right, let's get back to Basquiat, because I mentioned that at 11:09 p.m. one night, I was watching Basquiat's documentary, and then a painting in which Basquiat painted the numbers 109 in that painting came across the screen. Okay, that's fine. Whatever. Let's move on. I studied this picture. And I also watched Nipsey Hussle videos. And one day I watched Nipsey Hussle's video. To my utter surprise, I found a picture of Nipsey Hussle in which the numbers 109 were right there, along with Nipsey. So I'm like, oh man, look at this. This was like the Holy Grail. This was the capstone. This was the final piece of the puzzle. Like, look, here's Nipsey, here's 109 right here. Boom. And what later happened after seeing that picture and after finding Jean-Michel Basquiat's painting, then I looked at the two and I thought, Jean-Michel painted Nipsey, but he wasn't alive when he painted this. Nipsey was not alive. Nipsey was born in 85. Jean-Michel Basquiat painted this picture in 82. So I'm like, man, this is bizarre. But the picture and the painting look eerily similar. I made that discovery over a year ago. The pictures and the paintings, right? I made that discovery over a year ago. It wasn't until just the last couple of nights that I started looking more closely at this picture that Jean-Michel Basquiat painted, and did I discover something. And even as I'm speaking now, I haven't even mentioned this in any other videos, but Crete Academy, the name of that school where Nipsey's mural is painted on the playground. Crete, that's in Greece. That's an island off the coast of Greece. Just remember that. All right, now this painting that Jean-Michel Basquiat painted, Jean-Michel Basquiat wrote Alexander the Great at the top. Alexander the Great was a Greek or a Macedonian leader. He was a Greek leader. We know him for being Greek, right? At least I hope we know that. right? The marathon, the race, the marathon, was born out of Greece. It was the Battle of Marathon. After the victory, when a courier, sort of like a Paul Revere figure, ran from the battle to inform the people. The courier's name, Phidippides, I believe it was. He yelled, I said Nike, but they probably didn't pronounce it as Nike. It was probably Nike or Nike or Nike. Nike, whatever. That means victory. A marathon and victory. The Battle of Marathon, and Phidippides was saying victory. That's the legend, right? The painting that Jean-Michel Basquiat painted says Alexander the Great on it at the top. That's a reference to Greece. And then when you bundle the marathon and victory, and the history of the marathon and victory, or the Battle of Marathon and victory, you can't help, or personally, I can't help but think of Nipsey, because Nipsey's brand was the Marathon clothing brand. And the name of his last album was Victory Lap. His sweatshirts read Marathon. They read Victory. It's all there. All right, now this same painting that Jean-Michel Basquiat wrote, Alexander the Great on, he also wrote chest, liver, lungs. He wrote those words. If you know Basquiat's artwork, you know that he had been hit by a car when he was very young. He had to spend time in the hospital, and he focused on the human body. So when he paints, he draws bodies, he draws body parts, and he even writes the words. He uses words to emphasize certain things. So remember, there's a male figure. There's a body. There's a picture of a male figure on the painting that Jean-Michel made. There is the number 109. There's the reference to Alexander the Great, which is a reference to Greece, which can be an allusion to the marathon and victory. Marathon and victory, that's Nipsey. And then he wrote chest, liver, and lungs. And you guys, Nipsey was murdered because, he was shot for one. He was shot, between, they said, 10 and 11 times. But they said he was shot in his lungs 3 times, and one bullet pierced his liver. Lungs and liver have been shot. And on Jean-Michel Basquiat's painting, it says lungs and liver. It also says chest, but where do the lungs and the liver rest? In the chest cavity. Was Jean-Michel telling us that the person in this picture will be a great man, have some relationship to marathon and victory? He will die, because of his lungs and his liver. And 109 is going to be the interpreter, the person who's going to tell you about that? I don't know, man. But it's so much is baked into this, and it's all real. These are all facts. And I'm weaving all of this together, but I just wanted to say that it's not so much my obsession with these numbers. It's not that. These numbers only have been like post signs, just saying, keep going. You're okay. Just do it. Like Nike or Nike. Just do it. Put it together. So I just keep doing it. It's easy, So, what do you think? The conclusion and the interpretation that I'm leading to, that I arrived at, is because I saw 109 in Ethiopia, I learned about the Ethiopian Empire of Aksum, and I know that Nipsey was of Eritrean descent, because there's Eritrea, which was a part of the Queen of Sheba's Aksumite Empire, then I just basically draw a line from Aksum to Nipsey. And so everything that I've learned has informed me that, like, Nipsey was a descendant of the Aksumite Empire, plain as day. But it's really bizarre that this painting by my favorite artist, Jean-Michel Basquiat, like, basically mentions so many things that are related to Nipsey's story that I can't help but say that, like, I don't know if it's blood memory or what, but, like, spiritually, we are connected. Whether we are alive or dead, we are spiritually connected. And so what's happening is a spirit worked its way through Jean-Michel Basquiat's life. That same spirit perhaps lived in Nipsey. Perhaps that same spirit is living through me, or at least, I mean, I'm gonna guess, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that the spirit doesn't only doesn't only reside in one body. It's ever present. It's within all of us, and things have to unlock that spirit's potential, that spirit's ability to express itself. I'm just guessing here. I'm just guessing. I haven't read any books, and I don't know anything about this stuff. And I'm basically making this stuff up. But this is me trying to understand what has been happening to me and what continues to happen to me. And I rest on the fact that these are real experiences. And I'm just using my faculties of reason, you know? Well, I guess that's it. I spent a lot of time. You've been listening to me talk for a minute, so I should just, bring this to the denouement, the resolution. If I don't make a movie about this, I would hope that someone would make a movie about this, because 109 is wild. It's really wild. And look, as evidence, someone posted a video to YouTube 4 years ago and it said, just what exactly is 109? And then someone else wrote, the fuck does 109 mean? So I'm not alone in this experience. And then this Seth Reels. Let me go here. I've got to check what this person says. Seth Reels, 6 years ago, posted a comment on this YouTube page, Dialogo Prima's page. Seth Reels, 6 years ago, said, "What's it mean? Don't know. I see it everywhere." And he's talking about 109. I gotta go to his page and see what he's talking about. All right. Seth has 33 subscribers. No videos. No videos. No playlist. Nothing. There's no information. I just lurk and comment. Excuse me. That's what their profile says. I just lurk and comment. Oh, and I'm the king of flounder. This person joined YouTube in 2014. I'm the king of flounder. Interesting. Seth Reels. All right. So that led me to a dead end, but I'm glad they mentioned 109, and they expressed their frustration and annoyance, I guess, with 109. I'm putting it all together, but so far, if you listen to all of this, then you've got the story of 109. You've got my movie outline and movie blueprint. So let's work together to get this thing, on the silver screen, shall we? Inshallah, in God we trust. Peace and blessings.
You're at 109 right now.